welcome to episode 4 of the Dharma Bum Show. I am Christopher, your resident Dharma Bum here, and we have my co-hosts Xavier and Alexander. They're trying out for the co-host position today. They've been special guests up until now. We'll see if they make good co-hosts. Thank you for joining us. We're here for another lovely day in the dog park. It's a beautiful spot and it's going to soar. We're in the midst of a heat wave here in the United States of America, and it's going to go to 105 today. So, yeah. So we're up early. It's again about 8 o'clock, same time as yesterday. Great time to shoot a video here in the park. So we're going to do just that. So thank you for everybody who watched the last video. That's really gratifying, and thank you for liking and subscribing. Really appreciate it. So today's show is about a term that I've used a bit in my initial introduction, if you will, to the community. It's a term I use a lot because I believe in it. I believe in keeping things simple, and it's the term core practice. And the title really sums it up, because not only is my core, and I'm going to share my core practice with you, not only is it simple, but the key part of it is the repetition. That's what does the trick. That's where the magic is. So it's daily, because the human mind lives in a day-night cycle. It's a binaural sort of pattern of wakefulness, where it burns bright, and then it goes into different altered states whereby it can sort of repair itself and reset itself. And so it's important to do this daily and be a part of that cycle of your body and your mind, because this is the science of the mind. So let me bring up, I guess we'll start with this. So one of the things that I recommend is to begin, let's look at what the Buddha taught. I always turn back to that, and I always turn back to the most ancient scriptures if I can, to try to see, especially if it's a big question. When Buddha found enlightenment and gave the first Dharma talk, it was to his former followers, and he knew that he had to be concise, simple, convincing. One or two of them at least would have to become enlightened literally from just hearing those words. And what Buddha taught for that, as really the answer to everything, is sort of a paint by numbers sort of deal. And so I recommend, first of all, that you write these down, and keep them in a notepad. Keep them on your phone on a notepad. Keep them on all your laptops and devices. Originally, I used to keep this on little cards, little bifold cards, like little prayer cards, and I would give them out when people said, "Well, what's Buddhism all about?" You can get into this long, rambling dissertation about self, or you can just hand them one of these cards with just a series of numbered lists, very simple stuff, and it's what I'm about to show you. These items is, to my mind, if you were to put this in an envelope and you were to put it on a spaceship, and that a person gets on that spaceship and they get stranded in space, and they never heard of Buddhism, but they find the envelope, and they found this information in there. They could, if they chose, with nothing but this information, find enlightenment. And that's, it's sort of the core. I mean, when you talk about core anything, it's the core sort of Buddhist belief. So let's take a look. So we got the Four Noble Truths, which is, sort of the anchor, the foundation of it all. And then the last Noble Truth, the fourth Noble Truth, is the Eightfold Path, right? And now we get into the sort of the meat of it, and this is where we can talk about, what are we going to do? What's the action plan here? And then we're not going to get into that. I'm not a teacher, so I'm not going to teach about these items. I'm just getting into what is practice. But I would just point out one thing real quick, and that is the last three, number 6, number 7, and number 8, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These items refer to a core practice. The right effort is to create a core practice, and I recommend that you open up a notepad right now, get a pen or a pencil out, and make some notes, because I'm going to show you a few easy steps to do just that. And if you write it down, writing has power. How many times have we said it to ourselves? God, if I would remember your name if I just wrote it down, right? So write things down. Writing things down is a form of it can be a form of prayer. It's like engraving your intentions into the universe, which is how Buddhism sees prayer. But anyway, these last three, right effort is the setting up of your daily practice. Right mindfulness is a whole sort of concept, but basically you can sum it up in one sort of word: be here now. Just be in the now. Stop, especially when you're doing your practice, don't be in the future, don't be planning tomorrow, don't be thinking about the loved ones you lost or the past, but be in the now, and then spread that out to your regular life. But it's an important part of the practice. Mindfulness it's a whole category of teaching. There's a lot of great teachers. Maybe I'll do a episode and share some of the books, but just for now, just be here now, and then right concentration, which to my mind means correct meditation, because Buddha really focused on that sort of thing. And so there you have it. There's your action plan, right? And then your 5 precepts coming up here, which just kind of take the above and sum it up into a thing that you can use every day, a sort of a simplified version that you can sort of check yourself, do an audit, and see if you're living the good life according to Lord Buddha, right? So, and it's pretty basic stuff. Anybody who's familiar with, Christian sort of 10 Commandments or whatever, I mean, this stuff is all sort of universal throughout a lot of faiths. So, do not kill, do not steal, do not commit sexual misconduct, do not lie, and do not become intoxicated. And so that pretty much speaks for itself. And then the 3 jewels, which and this involves taking refuge in, but they're the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And so, like I said, I used to carry this around in like a little card, you know what I mean, and give them out. And I try every study session I do when I study, which is going to be one of the steps we'll talk about in core practice. But when I study, I will start out by doing an audit, by reading this and trying to see how much I can even memorize it, right? And you say, well, after 14 years, you surely don't still do that. Yes, actually I do. And here's the reason why I think you should do it if you're a Western convert almost forever. I was raised in the Western world, in Christian background, and the 10 Commandments, things like the Lord's Prayer, all those sorts of things, the 7 sacraments in Catholicism, are things I can list right now. I can name them off. They're literally like they would roll right off my tongue because I was memorizing these things since I was a child, okay? It's ingrained in our culture. But Buddhism isn't. And it never will be entirely. Not to the degree that Western culture has soaked into you. So this constant reminder of the very core of what we are as Buddhists and what we believe as Buddhists, and sort of reminding yourself that almost like on a daily basis is a really good thing, because it will help make that visceral for you and help make up for that lack of the fact that that you really weren't raised in this culture. And this, I mean, how many of you, honestly, I would be hard pressed, and I've got the list right in front of me, to close my eyes and recite all of these by heart. Come on, seriously. But I bet the Lama can, and that's because the Lama was raised in this, right? So do your daily audit. Start with this. Keep it this list that I've shown you here on. Whoops, wrong one. Keep. Go back here. Keep this list right here on your on your computer and on your devices, so that you can do an audit when you begin sort of a study session. So what should you study, and what is the core practice? What are the other sort of elements of it? So let's take a look at that. So, to my mind, core practice is just really these 4 things. Study, and we'll talk about what should you study real quick. But you should study scripture for sure every day, and commentary, like a sort of official commentary to scripture, and you should study the Dharma in general every day, and this involves reading. For me, my lifestyle, it involves ebooks. I have actually a rule about having any book on the wagon, because once I start, I won't be able to stop, and there'll be nothing but books, and the dog's perched on top, because I love books, right? So I instead have become equally obsessed with ebooks. And I'm going to show you in a bit some ebook resources. I'm going to actually show you where to get all the scripture, a lot of it anyway. It's a vast amount of Buddhist scripture, but a good start, and a vast majority of it for free. I'm going to show you that here in this episode. So you should study scripture and other sort of things. So let's take a look, at where can we get free sort of scripture resources. So, free Buddhist scripture. There's 3 schools of Buddhism: Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana, more or less in descending order of age of the schools. The Theravada is the most ancient. The scripture that they preserve is from the very beginning, when Buddha was still alive. This Dharma was being preserved orally at first, so they say, although I'm pretty sure people took cheap notes even back then. Writing was the new information technology back then. So, but in any case, however it came to us, but it's definitely considered the most ancient extant resources for finding out exactly what Buddha did and said and taught. And so we'll start there, and then we'll go through the schools and talk about what I read and for scripture. I can't recommend enough this institution to you as a Buddhist institution here in the United States of America. This is the Metaforest Monastery. They're here in California. I've had years of dealing with these folks, and I have never had even the slightest moment that wasn't completely beautiful and incredible. Really incredible. I hope I pronounced his name right. Denisar So Bhikkhu. Okay, I probably just destroyed that, but is a monk who sort of started it. And what he's done is very diligently, very academically translated what's known as the three baskets. The Theravada scripture is the Tripitaka. It stands for the three baskets. Which I actually think there's an anecdotal sort of evidence that it's because it was written down on fig leaves and put into three baskets. So they say originally, when it was originally written down. I think there might be some truth to that. It's definitely a name that seems to have stuck with it, an idea. If you're ever in the United States of America and you can visit the Metaphors Monastery, they're very welcoming people, and you can make arrangements with them. They've lifted all their restrictions, as it says on the site. So they have a section. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll learn about dharmatalks.org. Dharmatalks.org is a vast archive of translated scriptures, commentary, teachings, and even just stories mostly about Thai forest monks. But as part of that, they have a book section. And down here, you would go to suttas. And then if you're like myself and you're interested in more formal practice or ordination and you want to know what Buddha taught about the rules of monastic life, that's your Vinaya scriptures. And you just open them up. You pick one, the Sutta Pitaka, which is, these volumes are huge, by the way. And you open it up and you have the various ways that you can download them. Okay. I like EPUB. That's my favorite. That's a professional ebook format. I read it with Adobe Digital Editions on my Windows or Read Era on my Android. But Mobi for Kindle, PDF, okay? And these are all, you see the beautiful cover. He's got them bound into volumes called Handful of Leaves, Volume 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. But handful of leaves as in handful of fig leaves from the Tripitaka, right? So, and what Danisu has done, what our lovely monk friend has done, he's been very academic about it, very clean about it, has engaged in only the minimal amount of commentary, has done wonderful citations, and really puzzled over various Pali to do these English translations, and it's quite thorough. This is pretty much what you need. A good copy of the Dhammapada, which is down here somewhere as well, but the suttas and the Vinaya, those are the ones you want to download. Now, here's the deal with hard books. If you're a householder and you want the hard books, if you've got a bunch of money sitting around, he sells them. They're gorgeous. They're printed on archival qualities, like scripture paper, like thin, and in small font, like Bibles, right? And so they're really precious, softbound editions. Very well made. They're keepers. They're library quality. So you can buy them, or you can just write him a letter. You don't have to say nothing. Don't get into no long sob stories because it's just not worth it. Don't waste your breath. Just write to him and say, hey, send me these books for free. I think he's got a limit of 4 per request. I recommend you keep it to 2. They're pretty thick books, and postage costs a lot. But I actually, at one point, formed an entire library of hardbound books for free from Thanasu, a few books at a time. So you can just write and get the hardbounds if you want to build a library, and you can buy them. So that's pretty much covers all. From this resource, you can get for free all the Theravada scripture in English. So Mahayana. Mahayana for me has always been a very dense school. I've struggled to understand and to build knowledge within that school. So I limit myself to a single volume. It's called A Buddhist Bible by Dwight Goddard. And it's a very much the opposite of what Danasu has done. It's a translation that's been purposefully westernized, dumbed down. And that's because it's the Diamond Sutta and the Lotus Sutta, for me, are very difficult reads. They're very difficult to wrap my mind around. I'm still really reading and rereading both of those suttas. That's what they are, along with some commentary, and also I think a sutta from the last Zen prince, last Zen patriarch. But in any case, you can download it for free here at the Internet Archive. All of these links, guys, I'm going to put in the description when I upload the video, so please don't worry about them and making note of them. I'm going to make sure these are all listed in the description. But here at the Internet, this is a book that is out of copyright. It's more than 75 years old, so it's what's known in the public commons at this point. So anybody can reprint it and distribute it. So you can get it for free here at Alright, so yeah, you can get this here at the Internet Archive and various other places. This book is kind of for free all over the internet, really. It's an easy scripture to find. So that, for me, in my core practice right now, it's all I'm able to bite off on Mahayana scripture. When we get into Tibetan scripture, we get into what we talked about on one of my other episodes, the Great Paywall, okay? And so there's no legal free versions of any of the stuff I'm about to show you in Tibetan stuff. I'll show you what I'm reading right now. There are two tantric practices that interest me, that I plan on studying, that I am studying, I have studied, and will continue to study. And that is the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Kala Chakra, or the Wheel of Time. And so for the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which otherwise is known as the Liberation Through Understanding the In-Between, I reluctantly use Robert Thurman. I'm not a big fan of Robert Thurman. I don't know why. Maybe I should get over it. But I use Robert Thurman's version. You can get the Kindle version for $11.99, and then the paperback is like $13. I have the Kindle version. I use Kindle to collect up a lot of these books, especially Tibetan commentary. And then for my scripture for the Kala Chakra, good luck getting. You can get the extant actual Kala Chakra and the original extant commentary for $204 for 2 volumes. And I'm not even joking. I didn't even want to put the screen up, right? This is ridiculous. This is fairly expensive even for a Kindle. Okay, it's $35 for the Kindle version. That's for an ebook, okay, guys, that you can't share with anybody because it's DRM protected, right? It's in Kindle. So, but it's where I'm at now. It's the best I can do. I can't get to the extant English translations. Like I said, they're paywalled behind they won't even sell the Kindle version. I'm going to have to buy the hardbound books, and for both of them, they want $204 for what I think is the only known English translation, the only one that I can find. Maybe Lama can help us out and get us some free copies, but this is as close as I can come. It's called The Ornament of Stainless Light, and it's a pretty darn good ancient as well as modern resource on the Kala Chakra, including a lot of the extant material from the original sort of teachings, right? The original Dharma. So that's what I do, and then I could get into all the commentary that I read as well. Again, with Tibetan stuff, I kind of have to go to Amazon and Kindle, which is too bad. There's not a lot of free resources, but I will share some that I know of. If you follow me on X, I actually follow a couple of foundations that translate Tibetan scripture into English and make it available for free on their site. And I haven't really searched them yet. I only just found them. But if you follow my X account, I'm following those accounts. And there might be some resources there. That's for another show. We're going to do a show on spiritual dumpster diving on the internet and finding free stuff. But yeah. So that's your study stuff, okay? And so you want to read. Now, occasionally, it might be that you will have a time when you're sick or whatever, and it's just, or you're busy, and you just really can't fit some hardcore reading in. I recommend you only do this in emergencies. That way you've got plenty of good material on hand, and you don't get lazy. But it's okay to watch some Dharma-related movies, too, and I'll put a list of a few of my favorite movies, both just plain entertainment movies that are interesting, and then also some actual movies that are Dharma related, and that's an okay, but don't. This is a daily practice, so you've got to read scripture and commentary every day. In your household space or wherever you are, create sacred space. A little altar with a Buddha. The elements are incense, a drink offering, usually water, a food/flower offering, and a candle, right? And so, and one of the things I'm going to do on actually an episode next week, I think it'll be our next episode actually. Yes, in fact, I'm looking at the list now. Next episode is going to be on portable shrines. So, and I'm going to show you an app that's very useful too as well, that can help you with this. And then we're going to talk about portable shrines, because everything we have has to be portable. We are portable people, right? So and so for you householders, you do it in your home, but I'll also show you how to make a portable one for your car that you can take with you. But create sacred space in your own home. You could do a whole video on this, maybe a couple, and I will, but go ahead and do that and get started on that. And then the last one is my mantra, right? Sit, sit, sit. You've got to sit in meditation on your own breath. And I really believe that even if your Lama or your teacher has given you other meditations to do, you need to do those as well. And that's number 4. You see that on the list. Do what your teacher tells you as your daily practice as well. But I really firmly believe you have to spend some session, you have to spend one session on your own breath and center yourself the way that Buddha taught to do. And for these 4 elements, I recommend, I talk about the 5-minute rule, okay? So start, if you're just beginning, if you're brand new to daily practice, definitely start with 5 minutes. 5 minutes per element. So study scripture for 5 minutes. Study some commentary. Read some commentary for 5 minutes. Spend 5 minutes working or tidying up your sacred space. And spend at least 5 minutes a day meditating on your breath. So you're talking about an investment of 20 minutes a day, okay, to make a daily practice. This will make a difference even at 5 minutes. It will, actually. Even if you stuck with that for like a year. Hopefully you won't. Hopefully you'll get hooked on this sort of simple core idea, anchor, foundation, and you'll want to increase it. You could double it, for instance, and triple it until you get to 60 minutes, right, a day, and then even more. If you're a renunciate like me, you can get up to like an hour or so per element, and then you can go on retreat and do even more time per element, right? So I think they're all equal. I think you should spend equal amount of time on them. I think you should do it every single day, no matter what. And even if you've increased your schedule, like say you buffed up and you're doing a half an hour now, you're like, hey, Dharma Bum, I got a half an hour per element now. I'm getting some practice in, and you are, okay? But keep the 5-minute thing for emergencies. If say you got a day that's just wrecked, man, and we all have them, right? Don't give up. Just revert back to 5 minutes for that day. Do everything for 5 minutes just to make sure that you got it in, that you put that tick off that day, and then make an effort to not let that happen again. So that's core practice, and that's what I do every day, with various degrees of success. And that's what I return to when I get lost in tantric magic or. Alright, so in our next video we will talk about sacred space, and we will I'm going to show you my own portable altar shrine that I use, carry on the wagon, and talk about some resources for that. I'll put all of these resources that I've shown you today in the description, and I'll put also the core practice notepad and the 4 Noble Truths, etc. notepad. I'll put that in a paste bin and link that as well in the description. So thank you for watching, and I hope that I hope very much that you've been like, this is my core practice. It's not a teaching. I don't know what you should do to be a good Buddhist, but this is what I believe makes you a practicing Buddhist, and from there the sky's the limit. I mean, Buddha didn't really make too many definitive statements about anything, but he did say 2 things about this practice that I've just described to you, which is described again in the 4 Noble Truths and the number list. And he made 2 guarantees. He made 2 promises about that. He said one is, what I think is the most important one, is that you will enter the stream. And Thanasu, actually, over at the Forest Monastery, has a great book on entering the stream. But that if you do this every day, you will enter the stream, and you will a couple of benefits will accrue to you. One, you'll gain enlightenment one way or another within 7 lifetimes, and he's pretty. That's wild that he picked a number, right? I mean, that's wild that he said that, because like I said, he wasn't definitive about too many things, but 7 lives. And then also you'll stay a Buddhist. You won't have to convert next time. You'll be born into it as a culture. I think that would be super helpful, that if you don't make enlightenment this time around, to at least stay near the Dharma, right? For the next try. And then the second promise he made about it was, and I'm not going to get into it, you can look this up yourself, again in the, I recommend in the Theravada scripture, but he did definitively promise that you would begin to gain certain psychic powers. And that happens actually fairly early on. So don't let it alarm you if you, and don't get hung up on it. It's Buddha kind of said it as reluctantly, I think, as I did when he said it. I mean, don't get hung up on it. It's not the reason you should be doing all of this, but it is one of the things that Buddha said, and it's one of the few things that he said definitively about Buddhism and about practice. So give it a shot. I mean, it's an act of faith, right? But everything's an act of faith. You have to decide that to give what Buddha said a try. And then if it doesn't work for you, then don't do it anymore. But this is what works for me. This is what keeps me going as a Buddhist. And I return to it every single day. And I try to keep it super, super simple. Like I said, super basic, so that I can return to it every day. I don't have to be in fear of, oh, here's another project I got to go do or something like that. It's comfortable. It's handy. Like my dog's, equipment. It's just right there at hand. So, good luck with your core practice, and I hope this video was helpful and informative. And me and the boys offer you our blessing on this day. I hope everything is auspicious for you. Thank you so much for watching my videos, and make sure to please like and subscribe if you care to. And also, there are donation links in the description of the video as well, and that is gratefully accepted, and we put it to good use, mostly to make more videos. So thank you very much to everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video. Will be sometime next week, and it will be on portable shrines.